Lucky Wildebeest, you have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, from Djuma Private Game Reserve. We're sitting at, well, my favourite place in the entire reserve. And we have, well, it's active. I'm also being blinded by the sun, which means it's an extremely hot day today here in the reserve. And of course, we're going to be coming to you live from many different locations. So I hope you're all excited and ready to bumble, because of course, it's that time of day for your live safari through the African bush. Welcome aboard, at least to my safari vehicle, and of course, there's nowhere else I would rather be. That's Gingarika and Pumela walking off into the distance. We are sitting here at den number 1, and of course, my name is Lauren. I do have Impo on camera today, and the rest of the clan are just here. I saw Ntima and I think June, but sadly we don't have any visual for you. They have just wandered off. Wonder if it's worth following this pair, because I have not seen hearts in a very, very long time. We can't stay here anyway, there's no adult, and of course the sun is getting a little bit too high in the sky now. It's already 6:30 and it's just getting a little bit too hot, which means if you're a nocturnal animal, it's time for you to put your head down and go to sleep. So of course, this is all happening as you see it. We are live and interactive. So you must talk to us. Send in all your wonderful questions and comments. You can do that using hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, @FC on the YouTube chat. You can head over to the WildEarth website, register, and submit your questions on the live safari page. But if you're under 18, please do talk to us. You send in your questions via email, and that email address is kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Now, there was sort of mist, a fog, if you like, sitting all along the horizon this morning. There's a nip in the air, but you can also feel the sun coming up, and normally this is very much a sign of autumn in the low veld. I wonder if this double trouble here are heading to den number 3. They seem to be bouncing between the two dens, but in this long grass, it's very, very difficult to see. So I'm just going to check den number 3. You never know what adults may be there. And I do have something to tell you. It was reported last night. Now, I say reported, you always have to be careful, and that little pinch of salt, keep it with you. Kalamba was found last night, and she was on the exact road that Darby and I were checking, and we were checking that road for her. We were checking Central looking for Kalamba, and she was found an hour after us. So we were out by about an hour, and apparently she had very, very visible sort of suckle marks. It was really obvious that she is lactating. So that's very good news, and of course it's what we've all suspected. I didn't see her, so I can't comment, but it definitely seems like that may be the case. So where the den is, I do not know. At this stage, she's probably moving it quite a lot. And with the bush this thick, just take a look at the hyena den road. Impo's going to give you a view. This is a road that we drive every single day without fail, or at least I do. And look how overgrown it is. You can see the sun's hidden the moisture. The mist is lifting. So whether we find a den or not, well, it's extremely unlikely. But Kalamba's good and well. So we're going to scratch around for a leopard today, since my hyena den was 5% active this morning. But this one might be active. So that's the good news, everyone. But again, I did not see Kalamba myself. Everyone's very happy. I know. Spiderweb. So, yes, I believe it to be true, but again, it was just reported. Davy and I tried really hard to find signs of her yesterday, but we were obviously just ahead of her. We missed her by about an hour. She started getting active about 8:30, and that's when she was found. So it leaves for much excitement for what lies ahead. But really, I mean, although we all want to see cubs, I definitely do. Waiting until the 6-week mark is the right thing to do. It really is. It really is the right thing to do. Of course, they're going to be very young at this stage, and waiting until they get a bit stronger before vehicles visit is absolutely okay. It looks so beautiful this morning. Okay, we're literally, I see the cubs, I see them. Will there be any adults? That is a question. I had to ninja my way through the bush today. I don't think there's any adults here, everyone. We'll give you the briefest view of Hart's pair. We see you. And then we shall leave, because of course we are not supposed to be here without adults. So that's them going inside for the day, everyone. Gingerica and Pumela going into den number 1. So I really think it's just Navella and Intima's one that stay in den number 3. No, I've got that the wrong way around. Stay in den number 1. This is den number 3. So as I bumble looking for some other kind of spots, let's take a look at the weather across all our locations.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. We have a beautiful little snow, a little bit of not a snow, but it's misty. Misty. And now looking at the tropical spider, which is, you can see how they kind of like a tent they have built up in these little trees in there, and this is how they actually now be exposed to Misty that's attaching to them. My name is Andrew, and on camera I have David this morning. We came to this area to look around, see if we could maybe pick up the duck mane again, the little male lions, but seems to be he's gone. So we're looking at the tropical spider. It's actually a small spider though, with a little blackish spot. And those are the type of spider that build such a web.
It's a small spider.
Got into small spiders as well. And yeah, moving about. With the Misty, most of the spider, they don't actually interested on, or they most suffer because the sticky is not working most until that burned up. And then the ones that Misty burned up, they will then, the sticky will work and they will able to catch whatever touched the web. Would stuck in there. So they actually they're actually easy to be seen, especially the web itself. But without any kind of morning like this, in a normal day, then you just all drive past by. But they're all over. You won't see them. It's a tiny little thing. And then, so you're asking if these spiders are poisonous. No, they're actually not a venomous. They're not a deadly spiders. Most of the deadly spiders, they're mainly harder to be seen, especially during the day. They are most ground spiders that don't actually build a web like that we see there. But that's also including the garden spiders and golden orb spiders. Those are the one you often see pose themselves, build such a nest or web. These communal spiders, mainly harmless. So those are toxic or venomous. They're most all nocturnal or very shy spiders sometimes, harder to be seen. Unless if you pick up rocks and logs, there are all the logs around it, then of course, that's where you gotta be careful. So it looks like it's going to be one of an interesting morning with the dew. So everybody loves these, the web. It's actually showing beautiful. What Davi actually was saying to me that, if we can at least position, so we look at the now kind of a northeast where the sun rises in the east, directly east. So you can actually see the reflection coming from the kind of to the right, but then it's actually brilliant, a visual of it. And these type of spider, this is the way is the way of a hunt. When they set up the web, it takes several hours. And they got to make sure when it's damaged, which usually damaged by wind or animal walked through, huge birds flew through it, and they would damage the whole thing. And they're going to have to make sure quickly they build it up again, because they won't have food. They won't just going to hunt around just like normal spiders. They would have to make the web set up and wait for anything to be caught. And it go grabs it. So if I missed that question again, you come with that question again? So, Lukali, you want to know how the spider's different from insect. So, there is I think, one way that the difference. Most spider, they're actually 8-legged creatures. So many of the insects are the 4 or 6-legged. So that's what actually differ them from normal insect. Do you have some of them which had 6, but they're not many. All of them have 8 leg. And then many of the insects, they actually, when they feed, many of them, they would eat just like normal. Where these ones, some of them would actually have to suck juice of whatever they caught in there. So I'm going to move on, search around here. I'm going to be sending you across to Tswalu.
Good morning guys. It's a beautiful, cold but windy morning here in Tswalu Kalahari. And yeah, we've set out this morning to come and have a look at if the southern pride has maybe crossed through with the prevailing northerly wind we've had. We think they might have come a little bit north. By the way guys, my name is Moritz. Behind the camera we've got BK. And so yeah, our plan for this morning is just to check quickly on the roads and the water holes and so on to see if there's not any tracks coming in, or possibly the individuals. If we can find that, that would be even better. Like I said, with the wind pushing from the north for the past 2 days now, the likelihood of the pride coming over in this direction is very good, you know. In a moment we'll just show you where they've been hanging around, and also for the last week, so it's time for them to start coming out. I just want to get a good gap. So if we look at those mountains there where the sun is rising, just to the right of that, they were behind those mountains in like a sort of a valley type of thing. So with that being the case, they've been there now for, well, we haven't seen tracks crossing out for over a week. Unfortunately, because it's behind the mountains, we can't really go there. It just cuts off the signal for us. But we're hoping that they would have come back this way, and maybe we'll look to hunt on this side of the reserve, just because of the wind pushing the way it is. If not, if they haven't crossed back over, we might go and, you know, look for something like bat-eared foxes, or look and see if that cheetah maybe came right with a kill or something like that. But just a beautiful setting this early in the morning. You know that mornings is probably my favorite time. It's still so fresh, and everything is just waking up, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful time of the day to be out in the bush. We're hoping for the tracks to show us, crossing over the road. As I've mentioned before, the felt is quite thick at the moment. I think Laura mentioned it earlier as well. I can imagine it's much thicker in Djuma at the moment. But yeah, for us to, see tracks or spot tracks, if it's not on the road, it's quite difficult at the moment. But because of that thick bush, you'll find that the cats, or any animal for that matter, also enjoys moving on the road when they do travel to get to a certain point. When they're hunting, that's a different story. But if they are just moving to get to a different area, they'll definitely use the roads because it's just much more comfortable. Also, no need for looking out for thorns and rocks and all of those things. Might stick into their feet if they're on the road. Actually quite nice soft sand out here in the Kalahari. So yeah, that's the plan for this morning. Beautiful sunrise, and there's just something incredible about these mountains that we have over here. The Koranenberg is truly special. You can hear all the birds also waking up. There's a bokmakiri calling in the distance. It's the only bush shrike species that we have here, the only arid bush shrike that we have in the Kalahari. But yeah, just beautiful, that sound. So yeah, we're gonna check and see if we can find some tracks, or possibly the individuals. We might get lucky. We saw some leopard tracks yesterday. Ex-Ranger, yeah. So this time would be a good time of the year for small cubs to be in the pride, just because of the fact that, yeah, like you said, there's lush vegetation. So that means there's also lots of babies around, as far as the oryx and the eland, and even things like springbok is concerned. Kudu females are also busy calving at the moment. So lots of easier hunting opportunities, and also the main thing is lots of hiding places for a mother to stash her cubs while she goes out to possibly hunt. So it is a good time of the year. However, with lions, there's no real set time of the year to have cubs. They have cubs as often as possible, just because of the fact that their mortality rate for the cubs is quite high. About 80% of all cubs that are born don't make it to 2 years, unfortunately, just because, not everyone likes lions the way we do. Any other animal, if it gets the opportunity to take out a lion cub while it's still small, that's one less lion to worry about in the future for when they grow up. So with that being the case, it is a good time of the year, but like I said, there's no real baby time of the year for most of the predators, for that matter. But yeah, guys, we're going to move on, see if we can find some tracks, possibly hear some vocalization or something to give us an indication of where these lions might be. For the meantime, we're going to send you over to Phinda to say hello.
Welcome everyone to Phinda and Beyond. I have found just the golden orb spider. Have a look how the sun is shining through that web, and it's quite yellow. Hi everyone, my name is Busane, and behind the camera we have Craig. And wow, have a look at that big spider just in the middle of that web. So that's actually a female. So she did spin that web earlier on as a trap to catch any insect. Although I have seen the very big bird, even a very big bird of prey that was caught on that web before. Or not this one specifically, but I've seen it on the other web spider. Wow, this is really nice to see. We're gonna carry on and try to find ourselves some lions. And in the meantime, we're gonna take you to Andrew.
Beautiful. So we actually didn't have to drive far away. We got a beautiful purple roller. See how big it is. It's one of the big roller that we don't often see, but they're around. They're just harder to be found. Sitting there, probably trying to get a little bit of a dried off since was a lot of foggy around here. Still a little bit of fluffy. Oops, so on the background it was a bearded woodpecker knocking on the background. Again, so it's all a way of communications. This bearded woodpecker that you hear knocking that wood. Now all birds, early morning like this, they all do a lot of a sound. A lot of them, they would advertise their territory by making sound. Many of birds. Some, when they do that, it's because they're excited. If it's a great morning, then they're all gonna be happy. So purple roller, they breed anything from September, December, depending on how season it is. To be 11 years old, you're asking what the age of this bird, I'm not sure. It looks fully growing to me. And most birds, general lifespan, anything from 8, most of them, up to 15 years, typically roller most. So, but this is a fully grown, maybe between that 15 or maybe 8 years. Or less. So I'm going to carry on, do a little bit of a search around while it's still early and bright morning.
It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
What are you looking at, man? That's its gangster face. It has the manners of a common variety vagabond. Look at it, chewing with its mouth open like that.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a huge surprise for you. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you a very handsome male. Ladies, hold on to your hats. We have quarantine male leopard. Oh, I'm not allowed to squeal live, but I'm going to do a mini squeal. Can you honestly believe it? This is my first time seeing this male, and oh, sorry about that, everyone. Oh, hello, boy. I can't believe this, everyone. I don't think viewers have seen Quarantine in a very, very long time. He's normally east. Oh no, don't go into the thicket, boy. He's scent marking, so there's a high chance he's going to pop out again. Give us... he's there, he's here. I can see him. Okay, let's just... Can you see him through the thicket there, and Paul? Oh, my first time seeing this male, because we didn't normally sort of traverse the area that you would find Quarantine. He was actually born on Quarantine. He's named after the area that we have in our reserve. I'm a little bit worried about signal, so I'm not going to move the vehicle, but I really hope that he just pops back out again. We're on Buffels Cut Blind, everybody. And this is just fantastic news. Quarantine dear, where are you? I think I'm gonna just reverse a little bit here and see if we can get any potential views. We're not really allowed to off-road after the rain the other night. My first time. Oh, okay, as we search around for Quarantine here, we are going to send you guys across to an elephant.
I can't see. Oh wow, we have found just a single elephant bull. So he's busy swimming around. Have a look at the moment he's standing. It seems like he's starting to come out slowly now. He's just behind the tree for me. I'm going to reposition nicely a bit so that I can get to see him. Let me try forward a little bit. There he is. Can just see. Wow. He's got very short tusk as well. Do you see that? That's amazing. So probably he has broke those tusks from feeding, or even perhaps from fighting with another male. But he's got very strange short tusk. So if they lost the tusk, if the tusk is quite short, or if it's broken out completely, it's not gonna grow back. It's like us losing a tooth. Wow. Yeah, he's slowly now coming out. So perhaps he did feel the morning heat. It does seem like it's gonna be a hot day today. Look at that. He's busy drinking at the moment as he walks out. Wow. We did see some hippos earlier on around this waterhole, which they did like a move away from the middle of the dam, and they went just at the corner to avoid him. So perhaps it's because of his size. Look at him coming out. That's amazing. It seems like he's smelling something on the ground there. He's outside, judging by the size of his head and the base of his trunk. I think he might be between 15 and 20. So he's quite young still. So he's just left the head. Because if they get to the age of about 15 years, so the matriarch, which is they're more in charge of the head, they will then push the younger males away so that they don't have to mate with their sisters and their brothers. Have a look, he's going so close to that tree, so he might scratch himself against that tree. Look at that. Starting to rub his head. Though, David, it's depend on a genetic. Sometimes you'll have a very old elephant bull with a very short tusk. And there's a game reserve not too far from here, which is our northern side, which is known as Tembe Elephant Park. They've got very good elephant genes there with a very long tusk that sometimes you'll get the ones that touching the ground almost. But it does come with genetics. So have a look on his ears. He's got a lot of tears. So perhaps from rubbing himself like that in a very hard trees, and even walking through the very dense vegetation, that is why he's got those tears. Wow, that's amazing. Look at him. Scratching the head there slowly. Have a look how pink the end of the trunk is. So I have seen that before on the elephant. I'm not 100% sure why the others have like pink a tip of the trunk. And I did see him earlier on. He's also quite pink in the inside of the ear. Look at that. He wants to scratch his backside. Wow. He's so clever. He knows exactly which part of his body that's a little bit itchy. So with him, because he was in the water, probably he went into the water early hours of this morning before we get here. And because where they're walking, they do pick up a lot of ticks. So that is why he's quite itchy there. Look at him. Look at that force. Wow. Jennifer, I haven't seen any crocodile in this waterhole specifically, but there are some crocodiles in the area. But then crocodiles, they don't really mess with the elephant because of the size of an elephant. And if a crocodile has to go for the elephant, I have seen it before, or I've seen the video before whereby the crocodile will grab the elephant's trunk and the elephant will decide to drag that crocodile outside the water, which is quite vulnerable for the crocodile to be dragged outside the water because they're much more confident inside the water. You can just see the movement of the trees there. He's also busy scratching himself. I think so he's gonna go along here, perhaps go after this lush green grass around this area. And if the sun does get really hot, he's gonna go to the muddy sedge, even just on the edge of the water there, and draw himself with mud. So if he does come across with one or two elephant bulls in the area, he's gonna go and join them. But at the meantime, because he's quite happy where he is and it's quite dense, we're gonna leave him and go and try to find ourselves some lions. So at the meantime, because we can't see him nicely, we're gonna take you across to Lauren and we carry on with our plan.
Okay, everyone, our male leopard disappeared, and I need your help. It was originally called in as a very relaxed mole. Then it was quarantined, and now it could be Klangula. So now I'm stuck. I've never seen quarantine before, and I had absolutely zero visual there. The visual was all for you guys. Please help me. Was it quarantine or Klangula? Either way, of these male leopards. On quarantine quite far south for Klangula. Okay, so apparently, James, I did not realize I was live there. It's Klangula, I'm sorry. Still very exciting and still far south for him. But it wasn't quarantine. My heart breaks into little pieces. Thank you, James Richard. For now, over to Andrew.
So we're now on a Triple M, close to the gate area, where it's all pride of lions. Not sure if there was a pride of lion that they were reporting. Actually, we got a report of a pride lion that they were already inside Manyaleti where we can't go, but I just want to double check if maybe it's another lions that they were in this area. And we had a dark mane in this area yesterday. So it could be that maybe if it's a Talamati, we're following him around. Oh, there's a dwarf mongoose on the road. All coming out. Look at them. Mongoose, they are one of a very much interesting animal. Social. They're all active every time when he got them. I agree, everyone. There's such a, you're saying you love the mongoose. It's very good animals to have. And then they, since it's getting lighter and warm, they would probably perch in the open slightly, and they get warmer enough before they go forage. But they're very alert. Anything move around, they were just going to vanish into thick. Shreya is asking what are the social structure. So the mongoose is one of the out here. I know we had a banded mongoose also. They form kind of a very strong social bond, and also the dwarf mongoose. They do that. They move in such a group of anything from 7 up to 15, possibly 30 in the group. In that they're a pair of breeder. There's a tree squirrel just walk between them, see?
Yeah, got him.
Looks like it's getting a little bit of trouble with this mongoose going after it. Oops. They won't kill it, they're just curious, exercising, chasing after it. So there's a pair breeder, which they are. These are the one also breed alpha male and alpha female. And it's been found that they are the female in a member where they lactate sometimes. And those one would, once it happens, they would be helping the alpha female to suckle a young one. Just to accumulate the status on these other females that are not breeding in a group. when now that all other member, which they are built. So you're asking how far do they wander from their home. So they depend. If they would be raising their babies, they're more likely to go maybe a case or 2 Ks, and they always return back to that same mound because then they have to take care of the babies. But if they're just gonna take care of their social movement and along their boundary, which is also territorial, and that can move a long distance a day, which means they don't have to go back to sleep in that very same mound. They would find another one along the way. It's got to be a lot of these home they have decided to build up or reactivate during their life in that area. So up to 15 Ks a day they can when they want. This one's still curious. So I mentioned that we're working around at M, which is actually Gary Gate, while we were checking for these lines. All you hear, they're starting the equipment to go prepare roads and everything. So in the background, that noise. So you're asking, since they are dwarf mongoose, it means that they are normal mongoose. Indeed they are. So mongoose is actually in quite a few different species. Some species we don't get around here, but these are only the number 2 species that move in such a group. So you're a black-tip mongoose or slender mongoose are one solitary very much, move alone, but they're also mongoose, so they are a mongoose. So mongoose is actually the main name for them, but it comes quite often. They got a lot of a few different species, and the names got all of a difference. Got a yellow mongoose, which that we don't get to see around here. Can you wait? So you're asking that do you have a banded mongoose in Djuma? Yes, we do. Those ones are slightly rare to be seen. You know, they all vanish every time you see them. They're very shy, but also they remain in such big numbers. Well, sun is in my face, but yeah, they remain in such a big, numbers. So I'm gonna continue. Oh no, we're checking around here. Oh, dwarf mongoose just vanished. So let's see what we find, everybody, for you.
With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that? Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, It definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
We get asked quite regularly what are the differences between African and Asian elephants. We caught up with Haresh, who's from Leopard Trails, which is based in Sri Lanka.
Of course, size and weight is the first thing you notice. The African elephant is much bigger than the Asian elephant. Tusks in the Asian elephant, it's a very small percentage of male elephants only who have tusks. I was told that there's a theory that the African elephant's ear is in the shape of Africa. The Asian elephant has a much smaller ear. The elephant represents the bush and the jungle in Sri Lanka in a quintessential manner, and I think it's very important that we do whatever we can to protect them.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website, but once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Great, so we're still stretching the western boundary now, stretching towards the south. Then I confirmed those lines, tracks where the lines that they were seen crossing over Manyaleti from that gate. So I'm gonna try and look for something else. Not sure. Because they just say that the male was actually heading along this road, the tracks straight south, so he couldn't, or they couldn't continue to come this way, so they came all the way where he was yesterday and they turned around back north again, East Talamati, so they were nearly about to find him. So I'm gonna carry on. I'm gonna be sending you across to more Tswalu.
All right, guys. So yeah, I'm not sure where we lost you there. We had a break in the audio just quickly. Apologies for that. But yeah, I was saying that we checked the waterhole on the northern side of the Southern Pride's territory, nothing over there, and we're hugging the mountains now just to make sure that they're not coming over through here. But you know, with the lions sometimes they also go over the mountain, over one of the necks and so on, to cross back to the southern side of their territory. So we'll in any way scan those roads just a little bit to see. But yeah, seems to be like that most of the herbivores are a little bit more skittish this morning, hiding a little bit from you know, being out in the open just because of the wind being so strong. You know, as you can imagine, with the wind pumping, they are a little bit more paranoid just because of the fact that they can't hear or smell so well. They have to physically see everything that's around them. So with that being the case, you find that they do become a bit more scarce. Angels, so yes, there is news. We actually spent some time with them yesterday morning. I think you might have missed that just a little bit, but it was a quick one, so it was easy to not see. They've actually rejoined one another and looking very happy. They are looking hungry though, so there was some of the vehicles that went to them yesterday afternoon. They didn't hunt at that point, so possibly during the night or early hours of this morning. They might have looked to hunt as the sun was starting to rise or so. It was quite a cloudy and dark evening, so I don't think they would have done so during the evenings. But yeah, they have luckily found one another again, and there's a little steenbok just here. But yeah, so they found one another again. You can see how the steenbok is now looking around, pointing those ears in all the different directions, trying to see what's going on, paying a little bit of attention to us. But yeah, guys, as you can imagine, being so small and having let me go see if we can get him again. I'm just going to go back slightly. Having the wind pump as it is doing right now, and also being so short, having all the long grass in your field of view. No, I think he might have taken off. Ah, still beautiful. Got him. Ah, there he goes. Yeah. Still beautiful to see the little ones. So yeah, cheetah males have rejoined one another, looking very good. The one that was not the one that we saw. So the one that we saw, his brother, was looking quite a bit more thin than the one that we saw vocalizing and doing all of those things, which makes me think all the more that he was busy mating, because then they spend quite a bit of energy doing what they do, as well as not really feeding on anything at that time. So with that being the case, I do think that they would have definitely tried to hunt maybe late afternoon yesterday when everyone left them, or they're going to look to do so early this morning. I haven't heard any update on the radio as if so far as someone finding them this morning, but yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know, some brown hyena tracks on the road there, but it's old. The nice thing about the wind pushing at it as it is, I was discussing this with BK a little earlier, with the wind pushing so strong, if you do find a track that looks very fresh, you know that it was made within the last hour or so, just because you know the wind will soften up that track quite quickly, take away the sharp edges and make it look like it's 2 days old within a matter of 4 hours. So as soon as we do pick up on some fresh tracks, that will be very positive, because then we know we're right on their tails. So this is another one of the water holes that they like to frequent. You can see there's an old kudu carcass there on the left hand side. There's actually a beautiful little shaft-tailed wider. I'll show you now. Yeah, there you can see the kudu carcass. BK, do you see this little yellow one over here? Stunning little bird, one of the smallest species of bird that we have in Tswalu. But look at that long tail with almost like a teaspoon finishing at the bottom. So that's called the shaft-tailed wider. That's the male. He's got the pretty colors. There's actually quite a few of them around. But yeah, just beautiful too. They also looks like a white-backed mouse bird. Leopard, so most of our migratory birds will leave as soon as the first, proper cold hits. typically, you know, this season it might be a little later, not because of the cold, but because we have had such a good season. So the abundance of insects and, you know, grass seeds and all of those things, depending on what the specific bird feeds on, will cause them to stay a little longer. However, on the same note, because it's been such a good rainy season, we are expecting a super cold winter this year. So normally you'd find them around about April-ish, starting to think to move, and from May definitely not being in the area anymore, because then we would have had our first cold snap, and then it's not nice for them to be around, and they'll move to the warmer parts of Europe, or wherever whichever bird it is. If it's an intra-African migrant, you'll find them going to north of the equator, just, you know, Kenya, Tanzania, those places, East Africa and so on. If it's something like a Wahlberg's eagle, not that we find Wahlberg's eagle around here, well, I haven't seen any, but from the Lowveld, they'll definitely move to that area then. So yeah, typically around April, and then we start seeing them coming back more or less September-ish, you know, the start of spring. Also typically just after the first proper rains have fallen, which in the Kalahari is a little later, so they most of the time come back a little earlier than the first rains. As soon as the temperature changes is apparent, then you'll find them coming back and starting to, you know, look to nest again. But yeah, guys, I'm not seeing any lion tracks at this waterhole as well. We'll go down to the south, see if we can pick up on them maybe coming over the ridge of the mountain over there or so. If not, we might actually go and have a look. Yeah, there you can see that pin-tailed wider now. A shaft-tailed wider, sorry. Nicely. But if we don't pick up on any fresh lion tracks, we'll go and maybe see if we can't find those two boys, and then I can show you guys how good they look when they're together as well. These little birds are just too cute. But yeah, I think we're going to start moving on. Always nice to be around a waterhole early in the morning, because you've got a lot of bird activity and everyone's just in a good mood. Most of the time find the cats also coming in to have a drink just before they go to bed for the day. So always a good idea to swing past the waterholes and just see, even if it's just to pick up on some tracks. You know, there's plenty of places where the lions might be going, but there's always a good chance of them coming in for a drink during the night, and that will give you an indication as to where they're heading. But okay, that's not only with lions, that would be with any of the species that you are targeting that morning. So yeah. Incredible to see how some of these grasses are already starting to turn that golden color. You know, at the end of their seasonal life cycle. There's some red Hartebeest as well. I'm gonna just go around the corner. There we go. Quite unusual looking horns for the Hartebeest. You can see also for them, they're mostly plains animals. And look at how much in the thick stuff they are at the moment, just because of this wind. Not too comfortable. And yeah, this is also one of the species that the cheetahs will love going for. It's a little bit smaller than the oryx, and still a good meal for them to be taking on. There's actually an oryx lying over there as well. We'll just go around the corner and get a better view of him. Yeah, guys, I mean, they're really interesting animals, the red Hartebeest. They're quite funny looking. Let me just see, BK, if we can get a nice angle from... yeah, okay. It's going to be a little difficult with this oryx now. There at the back was probably the best. To come back to the red hartebeest, they're quite odd looking, but tell me when. Got it. But beautiful in its own way, you know, just like a warthog. There you can see the one oryx standing at the back and the other one lying down, probably. By the looks of it, it looks like two boys. Just by judging the gap in their horns and the size of their horns as well. With the oryx, you typically find the males having thicker based horns, or thicker horns in general, but shorter. And then the females, they've got the longer, thinner horns. You know, they don't need their horns as much for fighting. They use it more for defending themselves and their calves. Whereas the males, they fight quite vigorously. So being thicker and shorter, the possibility of it breaking is just lower. But yeah, you can see with the oryx, guys, typically during summertime, they concentrate most of their feeding activity during the evening, and there's a very specific reason for that. Is just because they're so well adapted to the drier conditions. By feeding during the evenings, they obtain quite a bit of moisture from the grass, well, the dew on the grass that they're feeding on at that time. So that causes them to just not be as water dependent or as waterhole dependent as what you'd find other animals being, that concentrates their movements exclusively during the day. So yeah, absolutely a Kalahari specialist, the oryx, and whether it be to Cornwall, so to a certain extent they will be related to cows because they're also part of the ruminant family. So any animal with a four-chambered stomach come from the same ancestors, if you want to call it that. But for the oryx specifically, they're closer related to something like a roan antelope and then sable antelope and those types of things. The group or the sub, group that we put them in or so on is the Hippotrachini, so the horse-like antelope. Just because they've got the bushy tail like a horse, and when they run they have more of a gallop, and they typically walk also a little bit more like a horse. So they also tend to feed on, or be more of a bulk grazer. With the oryx quite specifically, there, that one gets up now. With the oryx quite specifically, they are more selective in what they feed, as long as there's a lot of it. But you'll find things like sable and roan, their close relatives, to be not as picky as something like the oryx. You know, they just want to eat plenty of whatever they can find, even things like yellow thatching grass, which as a rule is not a very palatable grass. So yeah, they are ruminants, to come back to your question. So they would be far off descendants of the same family as where the cow comes from or cattle comes from, but not closely related anymore. It's also a hooved animal, split hooved animal, so that's also something that's in their favor or in the same category. But yeah, out of necessity, they've gone in one direction and cattle has gone in another direction as far as natural selection and evolution is concerned. So yeah, but still just beautiful. Much prettier than a cow though. So yeah, guys, I think we're gonna head on, see if we can pick up on those tracks that we've been looking for. So yeah, beautiful to see these oryx, eh?
When on safari, there's nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at andBeyond in Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through andBeyond in Ngala on WildEarth. Send me live questions through the WildEarth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effect down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the #1 aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
So we're looking at the capital dove. Way out here. It's actually work harder bird. Somewhere else. It's a drink lager, as you can hear. There's a beautiful communication there. Preening again. Capital dove, it's one of the common bird around. They're often seen. They spend a lot of time on the ground, sit around for all grass seeds. There's another one on the other side, responding. So cool because they do that call and they ride up trees far, and then the sound travels far enough for enough communication that sound must be heard way off distances. well, everyone you love, it's called. It's such a very much instrumental, beautiful sound they make. Where off goes? Not because of us, probably decided to move off. So we're going to carry on and drive along this road. Martin, so you're asking if there's a difference between a ring-necked dove and a capped turtle dove. Yeah, there's a difference. So both they would have a ring neck, pretty much just like capped turtle dove have, which you also see a little black on their neck. So I'm going to carry on drive, see if we could, male lion tracks also had been on a long move along this road, and they can't get to communicate to the guys up in the west very well, whether they got him or we're going to finally find out whether he's out of this area. Or not. Still a great morning for all animals to be able to enjoy the coolness of a day before it gets hot. Many of them, the ones seek for water because water stocks everywhere where they go. Alright everyone, so you want to know if there's a lot of dangerous spiders in Djuma. I'm not sure, but all daedal spiders, they're mainly nocturnal. Well, if I've seen one, I think I've seen twice, 2 of them. And then most of them well hidden, you hardly see them unless if you move around, shine around the spotlight middle of the night, because this is when they come out. But many of these are orb-web spiders and tropical spiders, and they're actually not venomous. So you're asking if we get a lot of spiders in camp? Yes, we do. And then normally there's a spiders there, you find them either inside the room, by chances they get inside the room. And then many of them, you find them during the day because the chance they get in is they do their hunts. but all get rid of them out of the room. Well, I love spiders, so I used to keep spiders when I was young, but not a venomous one. So I would collect spider, make a little cell, so I put one different species. And the only difficult way was how do I feed them, because I need to find something for them to feed. And that's how we watch them grow up. But so I'm going to be sending you across to Tswalu, and I'll continue my search.
Alright guys, so we're close to the southern section of the Southern Pride's territory. As you can see, spotting a lion that's not on the road, or anything for that matter that's not on the road at the moment, is going to be quite tough, with this grass being so lush and thick and tall for that matter as well. But like I mentioned earlier, you can actually visibly see the grass starting to turn golden. It's quite beautiful. And but we're gonna swing past the waterhole here now. So when we look, I'm just gonna stop quickly here. When we look into that valley over there, that's also one of the areas where the lions might pop over and come over to our side, well, to the side where we can actually put them on screen again. So hopefully they would have done so, and they're lying all by the waterhole just down here at the bottom, but we'll have to see. But yeah, guys, as you can see, beautiful grazing, beautiful browsing for all of the animals at the moment, so everyone's in a very good condition, and when they are in a good condition, it makes life a little bit more tough for the predators to hunt them. However, there's always ups and downs to everything. With the longer vegetation, the lions will definitely be able to stalk much more effectively, just because they can disappear. I don't know if you guys have seen the documentary, the movie Ghost in the Darkness. This grass, especially with the wind as it is right now, reminds me very much of that movie. It gives you chills actually. But yeah, we're gonna move on to the waterhole and see if there's any tracks coming in over there. But yeah, I mean, guys, just look at that view. This is one of my favorite areas in the reserve, just because there's lots of high points and they are all just stunning. Doesn't matter which direction you're looking at. But yeah, hopefully we'll find something interesting at the waterhole. There's always a possibility of something like a brown hyena also coming in or so. It is cool enough for him this morning to still be active, so we'll just have to see. Hi Marana. So migrating birds who stay in South Africa, we've got regional migrants, something like the mangrove kingfisher and so on, that you'd find moving to different locations within South Africa during different parts of the year. So there is a couple of species, yes. However, most of our migrants are either intra-African, so going above the equator during our winter time and coming down to us during our summertime, or European migrants that goes all the way up to the northern hemisphere, overseas when it's winter for us, and coming back during summer. Things like Egyptian geese, they migrate to a certain extent as well, so you'll find them following the water. So geese that we might have here at the moment, as soon as the water starts drying up, you might find them moving just to maybe the Orange River, which is still within the Northern Cape, but because of the lack of water around here, then they'll go to a more permanent water source. As soon as the rains return and the water holes fills up and so on, then you'll find them coming back this way. But as far as physical, recognized migrants are concerned, most of our bird species go above the equator during winter time and comes back south during the summer, whether it be just to the northern parts of Africa or over to the next continent. And then there's certain little species, but not as much as you'd find elsewhere, that moves within South Africa as the season changes. Yeah, so we're at that waterhole now. Let's see if we can pick up on any tracks around here. So far, I'm not seeing anything. We'll still go further south from here just to make sure, but if not, then we'll start focusing on maybe something like a cheetah or some buffalo maybe, or something like that. Yeah, and it seems like they maybe they made two big kills in close succession to one another, and they're actually still in that area. But that's the beauty of the bush. That's why we keep coming back and making sure that they're not maybe still around. Virgil, as far as I know, there's the grey gull that we have, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to lie to you if I say to you, definitively, because most of the areas where I've been guiding in is quite either arid or a little bit, Kruger side or so. If you go to places like KwaZulu-Natal, where Phinda is situated, and those Shishlu and Falosi and those places, I think you might actually find inland seagulls, but I'm going to lie to you if I tell you the exact species. So yes, very possible. However, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, guys, don't worry while you see a cloth in front of you. We're just wiping the lens quickly. With the wind pushing as it is, and all of the grass, there's quite a bit of dust getting kicked up, and also the grass being at the late stage of their life cycle, they're giving off a lot of seed, seeds and little pieces of debris, so that fills up the... DK says he's just spotted something. Let's just have a look. Ah, there's a beautiful female kudu. Let me go back past this tree. So yeah, guys, have a look at how you can see those big ears. So it's quite interesting. From what I can see, she's by herself. And that typically tells us that she's either recently had a baby, moving away, or she's in the process of getting ready to give birth. With the kudus, with most of the antelope species, when you find animals or find a species where the females don't have any horns, they like to be in the thickets, and they'll also hide their babies in the thick stuff while they go and feed during the day and then come back later to nurse it. So this is the perfect environment for a kudu to be in, and also for it to give birth and hide their little ones during the initial stage of their life. But again, like you saw just now, not too comfortable with anything strange close to them this morning. Malicella, so the difference between a kudu and a eland, there's part of the same tribe, so Trachylophini, the spiral-horned antelope. So basically cousins of one another. The big difference between them is the way they operate. So eland being much larger, bigger than a buffalo, needs to be more in the plains. That's why you'll find with both male and female eland, they've got horns, so that the females rather keep their babies with them, their calves, but then have the horns to protect them against danger and so on. Also protect themselves against dangerous situations. Then also you'll find that eland typically operate in much larger groups. So big breeding herds, just like buffalo. Like I said, they're much larger as well in size, so much more bulky. The kudus are a bit more slender. The males can get, have that thick neck and the muscular body. But the females are definitely, I'm just going to stop, we're going to try and see, just want to see where they go and sit down, but there's a couple of fork-tailed bee-eaters that just flew up from this tree that we're passing right now, but we'll have a look. If we can see them again, we'll stop, otherwise not. So yeah, kudus predominantly browse, so they predominantly feed on trees, but they can mix feed, so they can feed on grasses as well. Whereas eland, being the larger species, they predominantly graze again, so mostly grass feeding. Even though they can, just like the kudus, also mix feed if they need to. The kudus, the males, have very long, up to well over 1.5 meters sometimes, spiraling horns, and it's a clear spiral, whereas the eland have more of a dagger-like or a spear tip-like horn, which looks like you've taken it and you twisted it just like that. But yeah, guys, we're gonna quickly have a look and see if we can not pick up on any sign of lion down to the fence line. For the meantime, we're gonna send you over to Lauren.
Good luck, Mo, with your search for lions. Now, we have came back onto central Djuma. My heart is still a little bit broken. And that's why you take everything with a pinch of salt. But still, Klangula, that's interesting. He's a fantastic male leopard, and he is normally a lot further up north on Buffelshoek Mangulate boundary. So to see him quite close to Buffelshoek Dam on Buffelshoek Cut Line is fascinating. Now, although this is sad to mention again, the passing of Hook will inevitably change things in the west. Things will start moving and shifting and pushing, and in Djuma, if Tingana is no longer territorial, we don't know what's happening with Mulwati. Maybe there's shifts happening all around. But one day I will get lucky with quarantine. One day, I promise. Now, it was rather wonderful to see a Wildebeest on quarantine, I must say. The herd that we had on quarantine for about a year were really unsuccessful this year with raising calves. Unfortunately, it was just too much of a feast for the predators. And of course, the rutting season is coming soon. I cannot wait. Although it's very, very confusing to be out during those times because of the vocalizations. The sort of snorting from males can sometimes sound like alarm calls, and it can sometimes be very off-putting when you hear what you think is an alarm call and it's just two boys being rather, well, boys being boys, shall we say. And of course, the wildebeest do not rut like the impala do. They do have a season, and I'm really not sure if any of the calves from around Christmas time are still alive. I haven't seen any. And with the impala, the shorter day length at the very, very start of April out here in South Africa is an environmental cue. And that environmental cue internally triggers a biological... Oh, that's a fantastic visual there, Empoor. You're enjoying this. Maybe we could slightly reposition. I'm going to go reverse. How is that? Okay, that's far better. Everyone to look at this wildebeest here. Liz, Owen, it's quite simple. Grazers graze grass, so their sort of body shape and their digestive system and even their sort of mechanisms to chew, they're grazers, so they cut and clip the grass. And I always remember that in G and G, so the grazers and grass. And wildebeest, like we're looking at right now, they are grazers. They're pure grazers. Sometimes you get mixed feeders, like impala, they're mixed ecotone feeders. So they will graze and browse. But with the wildebeest, they are grazers. And they prefer sort of short grass. Believe it or not, they're quite fussy. Now, when it comes to browsers, those are the species that browse the leaves of trees. So they are sort of got a slightly different body structure or body positioning so that they can reach up and clean all the leaves of the trees or anything delicious that's a little bit higher. They've not got their necks hanging down to graze the grass. Grazers eat grass. Browsers go for the delicious foliage on trees. Now, it's going back to the rutting season. That environmental cue triggers a biological cue in the impala, which is a rise in testosterone. And the mature males, the ones that are sexually mature, there's some physiological changes that will take place, and they start to separate from their little bachelor herds. All those friendships that you see will be no more. They will separate, and they'll start competing with one another, and then becoming territorial. So wildebeests are territorial, and you'll always find a lone male stamping and stomping in his territory, waiting for females to come. That's if you're a wildebeest. But if you're an impala, it's completely different. You have temporary territories that dissolve. It's not permanent like the wildebeest. And the rutting starts. And that's when they challenge one another. There's horn clashes. They're all competing for the females. The more females that you can mate with, the more successful a male you are, the more you can continue your bloodline, the more offspring you can have. And the females are really herded into the territories by the males, and it's called sheepdog herding. It's really, really fascinating. It's about to start very, very soon, but wildebeest do not do that. They have their own territory set up, and they are waiting for the females to come on in. And as soon as females come on into their territory, that's when the male can sort of claim them as his. He will try to hold on to them as long as possible, but that's not always possible. And a wildebeest will always set up their territory in sort of a direct vicinity to water, and normally sandy areas. Now, we're on quarantine, so Gowrie Dam is really not too far away. But it does seem like a lone wildebeest. I really don't know what happened to that herd that we used to see. Karen, you're asking about the ticks? Yes, ticks are everywhere. We got a warning at the start of this season just to be careful, to always check your own body for ticks, because of course they're vectors of disease, and that's their ecological function, really, at the end of the day. And a lot of people hate ticks and are scared of ticks, which is completely understandable, but they are actually extremely fascinating organisms, and they're vital to any ecosystem. But yes, there's a lot of ticks right now, and of course they're ectoparasites, and there's two different types of tick bite fever that occur in South Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. You get MSF, which is Mediterranean spotted fever, which is transmitted by sort of dog ticks, and this is very prevalent in urban areas and can cause severe illness. And then you get the African tick bite fever, ATBF, and this is transmitted by cattle and game ticks. So this is very prevalent in we've got terrible views again. In rural farming and game reserve areas. It's normally a milder infection, but of course it's not good for humans to have either. I'm just thinking how we can reposition. But yes, there's lots of ticks around, so if we do get off the vehicles, we must check our own bodies. There we go. Or assist in just keeping an eye out on one another. And of course, ticks are actually an indicator of a healthy ecosystem. So sometimes scientists can look at tick load and can actually estimate if an organism is healthy or an ecosystem is healthy. If you see a leopard, for example, absolutely covered in ticks from head to toe or head to paw, then that's not good. That can be an indicator that that specific individual is weak or suffering from illness or something is wrong. There's a sort of carrying capacity to the amount of ticks that an individual of different species can handle. They will have ticks, but you don't want them to be overloaded with ticks. And ticks don't just go for warm-blooded mammals. A lot of people think it's just mammals. It's not at all. They also go for cold-blooded animals. Anna Marie, I couldn't possibly answer that. I have never had a tick in my life, and I can only talk about my own personal tick experience. I know that people like Tristan, they get a lot of ticks, and in myself, I don't get any. And obviously I cannot comment on the tick load on animals. It's not always visible. So I really am not sure. I couldn't possibly say. But I myself, I've never had a tick this year or last year or the year before. So we were warned that the tick load would be higher due to all the rains. So I would imagine yes, but I could not conclusively answer that, unfortunately, Annie Marie. You will find ticks on mammals, birds, reptiles, and amphibians. It's not just mammals. That's a misconception. You'll find them on elephants. You'll find them on pythons. You'll find them under many different snakes, actually. They go under the scales. You'll find them on tortoises. There's a specific tick that only goes for the leopard tortoise. And of course, ticks come in different shapes and sizes, and the bigger ones will go for the sort of bigger herbivores. Like the rhino tick goes for rhino. Will obviously have specialized mouth parts to get through the rhino skin. Some ticks even secrete saliva. And this has an anesthetic property, so that the person or the animal will not feel the tick itself. That's a pretty smart move. Okay, we're going to scratch around quarantine and see what else we can find.
It's the month of March and WildEarth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
The Bushhawk feed allows the camera person some creative license. This is my favorite style of shooting. You have to be mentally and physically prepared. You're shooting handheld in some very strange and contorted positions, always with a straight back, often in the squat position, low to the ground. The creativity comes down to the relationship and sync you have with your presenter. The more you understand each other, the more you'll be able to tell the story seamlessly.
Hello, I'm Marna, your WildEarth Safari Guide from andBeyond Ngala. What I really like about connecting with WildEarth viewers is that we get to speak to viewers instantly, and I get to show you this beautiful property. If you want to ask me a question, register on the WildEarth website. Simply head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Join me or one of the other guides twice a day on WildEarth.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
Good morning everyone and welcome to andBeyond Ngala. Sorry we're out so late. My name is Rowan. Behind the camera we've got OD and we are actually driving parallel to the Timbavati River and making our way towards the den site for the Lionesses, just to go see what's happening there. So this morning, or actually rather very early this morning, we had Birmingham Pride with the White Lions. They came into the property on the eastern side, and then of course when we went out on game drive they crossed out again towards Orpen Camp, which is quite sad. It's been a very long time since I've seen those. But I think our plan for the morning is actually just to go see what this lioness is up to, see if the other lionesses are still here with the older youngsters, and just take a nice little drive around the reserve. It's a hot morning, it's already very humid. It's a male impala, some more out here. I actually feel sorry for them in this area. I don't know, you'll see now as we drive further along, the grass is very long. So even what's supposed to be an enormous clearing is actually a good spot for lions and leopards to stalk them. I mean, when the impalas stand up here, basically the only thing you can see are the horns. So you can imagine for ambush predators, it's delightful because they'll be able to hide. I mean, look at the grass here. It is super long. There's a lot of food for elephants and rhinos, for zebra, for wildebeest, actually for everything. It's a nice thing about so much rain, but driving around here, sometimes we can't even see the road because the grass is so overgrown. Luckily, we should be heading into winter now, so all this should be able to die out quite soon. Okay, so let's carry on. Go into the riverbed. Actually, the crossing is just up front, so we loop in there and then we turn left. This is a bit of a marshy area, so water all around us. Juliana, very good question. Asking if the antelope eat insects on the grass while they graze. Juliana, I don't think so. I think when the antelope actually move through the grass, the insects all fly up, and then before they eat it also, the insects usually have quite good reaction time. So often what you do find are little birds, like fork-tailed drongos. They will follow around herds of buffalo or zebra or things like that, just fly behind them, and then as they move through the grass they spook all the insects and the fork-tailed drongos will go in and they grab them. Although I've asked myself the same question, do you think, Juliana, that elephants every now and then swallow a chameleon when they browse? Very possible. And there are a lot of insects around. I was saying last night when we were sitting in the riverbed with that lioness and her 3 small ones, you could stop and just listen, and the only thing you'd hear around you are the buzzing of mosquitoes. Actually horrifying. Not the best sound in the world at all. Okay, so here we go into the riverbed. Switch over to low range. Otherwise, if we go too fast, I might lose OD. Luckily, it's been quite a long time since anyone's got stuck in the riverbed. But yeah, I think let's go down here. We're going to turn left and then see what this lioness is up to. But while we do so, we'll send you back over to Lauren.
We have found a fallen over tree. I worked very hard to get this tree, but we found it. No, in all seriousness, this is a cluster leaf, and if Impo can just look at the sort of part where it's broken, it's been completely shoved over by an elephant. Probably not much effort went into that at all from the elephant side, but it looks very destructive to humans. Our perception of that is destruction and a tree being destroyed. And technically, yes. But elephants are said to be keystone species because they're influencing healthy functioning of an ecosystem. And even the survival of particular species. How? How are they doing that? How are they the driving force between the maintenance of the bushveld habitat? Let's just talk about the lowveld. Well, not only do they crop vegetation, so they stop it from sort of reaching a climax, we call that the forest climax. They are bioengineers. They are engineering the landscape. So by pushing over this old cluster leaf here, which unfortunately is dead, I believe, it's not going to survive, there's actually positive ecological repercussions. So one is that a fallen tree, any fallen tree, and this one in particular, it can actually provide browse at ground level. So there's no, we were just talking about grazing and browsing, so there's no leaves on this tree anymore. But if there were, the leaves are now available at ground level. So all of those organisms that are maybe a little bit shorter, not like a giraffe or an elephant, and they're browsers, they will now have the opportunity to browse on a different type of vegetation. Think about small little antelopes that can't browse very high. Secondly, it's completely creating a microhabitat. So this will allow for the survival and potentially even breeding for some small ground creatures. Let's just say rodents, reptiles, small mammals. Once that grass sort of grows, there will start to become a habitat. Things will live inside, things will live on the outside, things will bore into it, things will lay eggs into it, things will use it, I don't mean things, species, sorry, will use it for shelter. And third, the nutrient cycle. One of the fundamental key processes to any ecosystem is a nutrient cycle. And any nutrients from fallen trees will be recycled back into the soil through decay. So it's organic materials going to decay. And that's how the nutrient cycle continues. So although, yes, it looks very destructive to us, there's a lot of other things going on here behind the scenes. And I guess any trees that contain fruits, the fruits will of course then be available to all sorts of organisms on the ground where it normally wouldn't be. So they are destructive feeders, absolutely, but there's lots of sort of repercussions happening that are not negative, that are positive for the environment. Elephants push over trees to get access to green leaves. So it's like, hey, I'm the... No, not all animals are keystone species. Not in the environment. Depends what you're looking at. If you're looking at habitat or ecological, not all animals are classified as keystone species. But elephants are definitely one of the main ones out here. So you can be looking at a very sort of small localized environment, or you can be looking at a much bigger environment, and then you can determine what animals are keystone species. And those are the ones that are vital to the functioning of the entire ecosystem. They help define the ecosystem, if you like. And without them, without those particular keystone species, the ecosystem would be drastically different. The lion here is the apex predator. They help control balance of all the herbivores. elephants. They are the ones as the bioengineers. Even bees for pollinating. There's so many different keystone species, but not all animals are classified as keystone species. So elephants have done this to either reach the green leaves, because hey, you're like a large pachyderm, why not just push over the tree? You can't be bothered reaching up, just let's push it over. So they're trying to access the green leaves on the crown. They may be trying to debark the tree that we watched yesterday morning. That was a fascinating sighting, because they're trying to access the inner vascular tissue of the tree, where the water and the nutrients are. It's called the cambium layer. There can be many reasons that they push over a tree. I've actually seen bull elephants just push over a tree and walk away. I can't determine what that particular elephant was thinking, of course, but it looked like, well, he was just being boisterous. And, you know, why not just kick over a tree? If you can't, then let's do it. All right, let's see what other insects we can find. I'm on a bit of an insect mission now. We're trying to parking the shadier spots around quarantine. And look at quarantine, not the leopard. The area, it's so thick. So I'm sure we're going to get lucky with lots of insects here. So as I search on the ground, we are going to send you guys across to Andrew.
So great, we got a bull, single bull looks like for now. A blue wildebeest, which is resting in a shade. When they're mainly social animal, especially bull, when they are not with the females, they were more likely to be with the impalas, kudus they have around. And there's baboons, and more likely to gather together. But how it works in terms of how the female move in and out of this area, where they move in group, these are the females. Then for a male that is already dominating in the area, he's more likely to look after his ground of a dominate. But where females they have access in and out of his territory, which means they would go around, see a lot of males while he's still there. And it's the only time they come back to him again, which they're definitely gonna come back to him when they want to. So you won't look for females. You have to wait for them to return to him. So I'm gonna carry on searching around. I'm gonna be checking now Gary Dam, see what is in there.
Yeah, so we've arrived at the den site. In front of us is the lioness with her head down. She's the mom. She's the one with the brand new cubs that we haven't seen yet, that female. And then next to her is a sub-adult, actually inching towards the water now to have a drink. Quite lazy. Quite a clever place to have a sleep. I mean, every now and then if you feel like a drink, to just go move a little bit forward and stretch it out. And then just to our left is another sub-adult, also having a drink, another female. And then on the other side of the den site, we left the mom and the two older cubs. I think those cubs will be quite shy to come anywhere close to this den site. This mom would be vicious towards them. So yeah, quite nice. So far, no sign of the cubs. I'm pretty sure they'll just be sleeping in the den sites. Now we've got the one sub-adult walking towards this lioness and her sister. full bellies. They don't look like they are too hungry. I don't think they moved around too much. Driving up here, there are a lot of fresh elephant tracks. I think the elephants might have chased them around a little bit last night or early this morning, but they wouldn't move far. We're talking about it, and we think, actually, lions, they must enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's good fun to have a few elephants chase you around. Of course, they're a lot faster than the elephants are. I just think when there are little ones in the area, it might be a bit more stressful. But if this lioness really wanted to put up a fight, she'll charge at an elephant, and I'm pretty sure an elephant would back down, knowing a mother's wrath. Morgan, asking if the water is clean. So, Morgan, not quite. I wouldn't say a human being should drink it. You know, it filters through actually quite a few communities, and there'll be a lot of poo in it, especially a hyena, a lion, all sorts really. But for lions, for any animal out here, they've got it's actually very strong digestive systems, so it's perfectly fine for them to drink it. And of course, now when it's been flowing down the river, it's actually a lot clearer. So much better to drink from here than go to any of the stagnant watering holes like Clara Dam or Alfred Dam. I would much rather drink the river water than any of those water, because what happens in these dams is you've got the hippos pooing all the time, you've got hyenas going in there to cool down, and they'll probably pee and poo in the water. At least this is still flowing a little bit, so a lot cleaner. You can see all of them now exhausted. Look at the bellies, quite full. I'm trying to look at the teats of this lioness, and it doesn't look like it's been suckled on in the last half an hour. I think she's been here quite a while. So it looks like the back two are mostly the ones that have been suckled on. Quite likely that she only has 2 cubs. Of course, we're not going to know this until she brings all of them out and let them drink from her in the riverbed. Hopefully we'll be here for that. Oh, look at the water dripping from that other lioness. They're such beautiful animals. Actually, the entire pride, the entire Birmingham pride, very good looking pride of lions. What a good spot. The sand is nice and cool there. They've found a bit of shade. Eventually, a little bit later when it gets hotter, they'll probably move again to the southern bank, to the side where they were yesterday. And I can believe that this mom would actually go back inside her den site. Beautiful morning sounds around. African monarch that just flew through the shot. Beautiful butterfly. Lazy asking, how's leadership determined within male lions? It's usually the strongest, biggest, and most aggressive one, I'd say. With us, though, what we found is dominance shifts between the Ross males. So you have the grumpy one with the darker mane and the blonder one. But it looks like every now and then the one is submissive towards the other one, and then maybe a month later it changes. So very, very possible that it happens within all coalitions of male lions. But yeah, usually, I mean, they did studies about it, and the darker maned lions are supposed to be more aggressive, and so would be more dominant. With the Mberi males, the one's a lot older than the other one, and it's got a very, very, very dark mane, also massive male lion, so he'd be more dominant. So I think it's got to do with size and, of course, how aggressive you are. But then it'd be interesting to see what happens with the white male lion, because on a carcass, that guy is very aggressive towards his brothers, towards everyone around. But he won't have a dark mane at all. He'll have like a whitish, reddish kind of mane. So it'd be nice to see. Imagine he becomes dominant. But saying that, all of them eventually in a coalition will have mating rights. So all of them would be able to mate with females in estrus. Clever from the females, because then they make the males believe that all the cubs belong to them. So the males won't know that this one is their cub, but this one isn't their cub. So they'll protect them anyway. Like this lioness on the right, just can't fall asleep. They weren't this full yesterday, so they must have gone out and caught something. Jennifer asking who names the prides. Jennifer, it's usually, so Birmingham Pride, their name comes from where they were born. They were actually born in a property called Birmingham. They moved on to Ngala in about 2010. It's the first time we saw them. And then, so we've just given them the name Birmingham Pride. Same thing, the Ross males were part of Ross Pride, but they were born somewhere in the Timbavati. So it's usually, they take the name of the place where they were born. So we don't name individual lions on Ngala. These just remain Birmingham Pride. They will be part of Birmingham Pride forever. The males, when they move off, remains to be seen. I don't think they could be called the Birmingham Boys again, because there was already a coalition known as the Birmingham Boys. They went further down south in the Sabi sands. So yeah, that'd be interesting to see. But the pride names around here is because of the places where they were born. It's the same thing with naming leopards on Ngala. We just name them after places we see them often, or certain traits they have, or a tree they visit often, or exactly where they were born. Panting heavily. I think we'll sit here for a while. We might actually go back around to the northern side and show you the lioness and her two older cubs. But yeah, we're going to be in this area for a little time longer.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. but it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Right, everybody, so we visited the Gari Dam. Well, it looks like for now we got a water monitor lizard basking in his log. Probably it's all about getting warm. Where it's cloudy there and there. But sometimes sun shining through that log, so it's only a time that creature receives the energy from the sun heat. So they spend a lot of time hunting in this water for frogs. A frog foam, which is a frog nest, is, if it's ever close to places where that monitor lizard can reach, and they of course will be eaten. When they come off the water, sometimes you do see them on a land. This is when they're also on a search for food on land. If that's anybody who nesting on the ground birds or chicks will be taken. So, Jerome, you're asking if do ticks affect these lizard? Not quite a lot. Since they spend a lot of time in the water, when they come out to land, they may carry ticks, but of course, result of drowned ticks or die when they drown into the water. So that carry a lot of ticks. It's a rock monitor lizard then, because they're all permanently in land. And then you also find them in a very dirty water, which this is how they hunt. They've been found in their wastewater storage. Wherever it's a water available, whether it's a fresh water or dirty water, then. But it's got to be a food for them to hunt in it. Obojani, so you're asking what's different between a water monitor lizard and a rock monitor lizard. So a rock monitor lizard, they are kind of a very dry animal, and they're all kind of greenish. They have a little, a faint pattern where not clearly visible, but they like this, band tail all along, banded, a little stripe kind of. Where in this we see a lot of a dot. Sort of like yellowish and darkish. So there is a difference. But they're both species climb trees quite often. They are very good in that. And they have a nail which are very sharp and only designed for climbing. Charles, so you're asking how long do you monitor lizard live? Some can reach, depending on survival. Out in the wild, they get taken by martial eagles and have a leopard. But general lifespan, anything from 15 upwards. And it can be as Virgil, so you're asking if the monitor lizard are poisonous. No, they're not actually. For their own self-defense, they may sometimes, you would get a kind of an infection, but they're not poisonous. If you have your skin allergic to any of bite or unnecessarily chemical in your body, of course you will get swollen, but they're all just going to be alright afterwards, so they're not really venomous. No, when we look at them, we would think of Komodo dragon, but they don't have these bacteria like Komodo dragon have. But they all react the same. The movement they do, it's pretty much the same. You would think of a remain of those of a dinosaur or dragon. They can also stand on hind legs, look around. So I'm going to see if we can maybe see anything around this dam here. I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren.
Beautiful lady of the morning. We had a magnificent male leopard, and now we've got a stunning female arachnid. Not an insect, technically, but can sometimes be grouped together with insects. The small creepy things. Now I think this is the bandied garden orb. Could be wrong. But they're actually really skittish, believe it or not. So as soon as they hear something approach, be it a large herbivore, be it a vehicle, just be it anything, they scuttle all the way up and try to blend in with the vegetation. And they do a good job. If people can just zoom out a little bit, you'll see if you weren't really looking for one, there's a high chance you might not see her. And it's definitely a female. It's only the female in the sort of orb spiders or orb weavers, whatever you want to call them. See, you really wouldn't see her unless you were specifically looking for her. And it's the females that are larger. And when I say larger, I mean much larger. I would not want to be a male orb-web spider, that's for sure. And look at that black and white bandied coloration. It's stunning. Contains venom? Yes. Harmful to humans? No. I think it was Andrew that was discussing poison versus venom earlier. And all spiders do have venom, but it has to be injected, and not all of them have that method of delivery. And sometimes the venom is just so weak and so small that it really wouldn't affect the human body. I am going to sneeze, everyone. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Better out than in, I guess. Now, it wasn't the orb-web spider, but it was the black widow spider, who was discovered to have all sorts of plugs inside of her. And it's such a great mechanism along the lines of evolution, a specialized adaptation of the males, because if you think about the size of a male spider in this huge, vast environment out here, you've got to reproduce. You've got to produce offspring. You've got to continue your bloodline. It's a little bit tricky when you're living in this vast environment. The females are bigger than you and, well, more terrifying. They may eat you. Got to compete against all these males. What can I do? Well, some spiders, not all, break off the tips of their pedipalps. Pedipalps is the scientific name for spider genitalia. And when I say pedipalps, yes, there's an S there, there's two. It's twin genitalia. And they're able to break off the tips and actually block the female's genitalia to ensure that it's their sperm that fertilizes the spider's eggs. Now, I find that just incredible. It's remarkable. Self-mutilation for the sole purpose of your bloodline. Whether the female is aware of that, I guess we could never tell. But the bigger spiders can actually have a lot of pedipalps inside of them, because of course they're promiscuous. And what the male is trying to do is obstruct her genitalia to block sperm. Now, one plug is not... Oh, she's moving. One plug is not going to do the trick. But it's an attempt to just create a blockage to ensure that your sperm wins in the sperm competition. And a male with a broken pedipalp is neutered, effectively neutered. So he has two chances. Two pedipalps, two chances to break them, and then it's game over. Oh, she's beautiful. Tadaran spiders actually completely twist off their own pedipalp. And because they're large spiders, they have large pedipalps. And that's really the ultimate self-sacrifice. And that's what males have to do when there's so much competition. And if he twists one off, then he's only got one remaining. So it's inevitable that he will die a certain death while mating with the female, and that's it. I actually think Tadaran only have one pedipalp, sorry. The Tadaran species only has one, not twin pedipalps. So once he's mated once, he dies in her embrace. A lovely embrace of all 8 legs. Okay, we're going to let this beautiful... Okay, no. We are going to stay here. I'm hoping she moves a little bit. So even people who are slightly scared of spiders or just overall terrified of spiders, as I used to be, she moves so gracefully and so lightly with all 8 of her legs. And we're actually looking at her underside. So we're looking at her sort of underneath the abdomen And you can see all the legs are not attached to her abdomen. All 8 of them, they're attached to her thorax. And of course she's upside down, as they always are. I'm not sure you would have found me on this segment maybe a year ago. But I really have a newfound appreciation for spiders. It's their biology that really gets me, not so much their appearance. Okay, well, now we really are going to let this queen get on with her day and send you guys across to Andrew at the waterhole.
Great, everybody. So we also had a visual of a hippos in this very watering hole, Gary Dam. It seems to be submerged for now. Every now and then you can see all the bubble inside to that water. But he may be making his way towards us because he was far on the end and we hardly to spot him, just was an ear sticking out. Can you hear him? Maybe he's making his way towards us. And a hippo there are nocturnal, so he probably came back to this watering hole. I know he was here yesterday, and he probably had moved feed about all night. And he returned back in the water again before late. Around 3-4 o'clock in the morning, they got it back. They got to return back to the water. There he is. So it looks like it's very difficult to be filmed. So a hippo can also submerge down for about 6 minutes, 5-6 minutes, up to 8 sometimes. So everybody, you're loving all the bird sound, and let's just maybe take a moment of a silence, just listen to all of the sound. So we're gonna carry on about Sedge. Gonna be sending you across to Ngala.
So we came to the other side, the northern side of the den site. So the lion you see there now is the 11-month-old male. His sister just walked over to the other side where the lionesses were in the river, but she gave a very wide berth. I think she'll be very careful about how she approaches the situation. That mother gets very angry with these two youngsters. I think it's because youngsters, especially when they see new lion cubs, it's new toys. So it's something they want to play with. And of course, it's a big yawn from him, so he's probably going to get up and follow soon. It could be detrimental to the babies if they play a little bit too hard. See, facing us, he's thinking about it. He wants to come back. So he'll probably walk towards us a little bit and then also give the den site a wide berth and go to the other side. Another big yawn. All these are good signs that he'll get up now. Just like human beings, you wake up in the morning, you yawn, you stretch, you go brush your teeth, you wash your face, you yawn again, and you yawn again, you have some coffee, and then you yawn one more time. And then you're ready for the day. That's how my morning goes. A bit of a breeze picking up now, which is quite nice. And now Peter asking if lions react to their mirror image. I think they do. I think there was a show on National Geographic or Animal Planet once where they put a mirror up and the lion actually attacked it. Of course, animals, especially territorial animals, they don't know what they look like. So them seeing another big male lion, I can imagine they'll get quite aggressive towards it, thinking it's a different lion. Of course, we don't drive around with mirrors on Ngala and see what the reaction would be. So I know there was a show on it in our Peters, if you want to maybe Google or YouTube that, but from what I can remember, they definitely reacted to their mirror image. You can see he's now slowly starting to groom himself, clean his paws. Don't think he wants to be left alone on this side of the riverbed when all the other lions are on the other side. It's amazing. They are exactly where they were born 11 months ago. It's exactly where the mom had them. So there must be certain safe spots that the pride feels, okay, this would be a good place to give birth. Especially here, because you're right in the middle of the riverbed. I mean, you've got river behind you and river in front of you. It's a very, very good spot to have your babies. Anything walking, I can hear some growling from the other side. So I wonder if that little female has just gone into the river and tried to get close to the other lionesses. You can see he also reacted to it. His head popped up. He's looking back. Maybe the sister's on her way back. Jason asking if Mohawk is still alive. I don't know, Jason. I think Mohawk is on Djuma. We are currently on andBeyond Ngala, so I'm not sure. It would probably be a better question suited for Lauren. I'm not sure. Also, he got up and walked a little bit, but just more into the shade and then lay down again. So where he's looking now is the den site, and he mustn't go in there. He will get a big smack from the mother. I think she'll come charging up the riverbed. So rather follow the path his sister chose. Not too sure where their mother is. When we drove in, she was lying not too far from them, but it could be, of course, it was getting quite hot. There's no cloud cover, and she could have just moved into the shade again. So I think we'll let them be, let them snooze. We'll probably catch up with them later this afternoon when they get a bit more active. It's supposed to get really hot today, so when it cools down a bit, we'll come back here.
We finally managed to catch up with the troop of baboons that were in camp this morning. All over quarantine, and you can see it's difficult to see them because the grass is so long. It's a very large troop of baboons. They're not territorial, so they will move. And I haven't seen baboons on quarantine in some time. It's almost like they've just came back. Oh, look at all the monarch butterflies. It's a big baboon. And of course we have lots of vervet monkeys in camp, shall we say. But when baboons come into your camp, it can be very worrying just due to their sheer size and strength. You have to be very, very careful with a troop of baboons. They can be aggressive. And it's common to find them around areas where you find humans. There's definitely quite a few humans in our camp. And of course, lots of opportunities to steal food. Have we lost view of them? One's gone up that tree in Paul. I can just see branches moving. We've positioned ourselves in the shade, though it's very, very uncomfortably hot right now. Once it reaches 9 o'clock here, whew. I can see a tail, just not a body. Yeah, they've all disappeared, but we do have the there's a little one. Sorry, Jared, just saying everyone loves how something the baboons are. There's a young one. Cheeky. Yes, cheeky. Extremely, extremely cheeky. And yet cute at the same time. I always feel a little bit conflicted when I think about the baboons and the monkeys. The monkeys are still running around with all of my wisdom. I have none left. I did just sort of note it in Paul. I'm seeing less insects. Yes, there's still insects around, don't worry. I'm not saying they've disappeared. But I just feel there's been a slight shift. We're definitely transitioning. I mean, it's March after all. There'll be an even bigger shift soon. And slowly but surely the insects will start to disappear. I don't want that to happen. Look at the Ngala, Mpo. I think this is the gang, the cool gang that live in camp. It's a bachelor gang, a gang of boys. This is a young boy though, if you look at the shape of his horns and the size of his horns. Mike, they don't. Although hyenas have very strong stomach acid, they normally leave the horns and the hoofs. It was yesterday at the hyena den, I think the little cubs were running around with horns and teeth and jawbones. They can crunch through bones, absolutely, but you will find they don't eat the horns and the hooves. And if they do swallow, swallow? What is that? If they do swallow hooves from maybe a very small antelope or a lamb, an impala lamb, they can regurgitate them. Hyenas will eat almost anything, but generally speaking, not horns. It's so peaceful. I love just sitting on quarantine. Quarantine used to be filled with predators, but it's been very, very quiet on the predator front. I have not seen a leopard track around quarantine since, well, this stint. Not one. Lions, yes, the Nkuhumas moved through here, but leopards, not one. Apparently, they're just different animals. I think showing you in my book's probably the best thing. And once you see them, they really don't look similar at all in Ngala and Kudu. Just let me get this page up. And once you've seen it once, you'll never be able to unsee it. Okay. Info, are you ready? Now, the first thing is size. So, size is really the best thing to go for. I'm just looking for the only porcupine pointer I have left. The monkeys have stolen everything. This is a male kudu, and he's huge. Really, he's very, very big, and that's maybe not the best diagram. Let's go for this one, Info. You can see he's got that sort of hump on his back, almost like a camel hump. And if you look at the magnificent horns, they twist and turn. They're actually the most magnificent for me of all the antelope. And again, let's quickly shift to this image. You'll see that he's got short hair. He's not as dark as a male in Ngala. He does still have the disruptive markings going down the side, but his hair is much, much shorter. Now I'm going to turn the page. Ngala. So here you can see the hair is much longer and shaggier and darker for starters. Although male Ngalas are very big, they're definitely nowhere near as big as kudu bulls. And the horns are different shapes. You can just look at that sort of, they do twist, they do turn, but it's a completely different shape from a kudu. So I would say that's probably the best indicator. And once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. But the Nyalas are smaller, darker, different shaped horns, and longer, shaggier coat. So I hope those images helped a little bit. But this is our retirement gang of Nyala. I do just want to correct myself. When I was talking about the spider, I said thorax. I actually meant to say cephalothorax. The anatomy of an insect, head, thorax, abdomen, is different for arachnids. Very different. Maybe we can go through that this afternoon. Okay, we're going to bumble for the last few minutes around quarantine and see what else we can find. And you guys are going to head down to Tswalu.
Alright guys, so unfortunately there was no tracks for the lions that came through from the mountainside, so we are of the opinion that they are still on the wrong side of the mountain, if you want to say it like that. We came over to the more central part of the reserve and just had a look around, but in general it's been a quiet morning this morning over the entire Tswalu. I spoke to some of the other guides earlier, or not too long ago, and they were looking for cheetahs, 2 different sets, the 2 boys, as well as the mother with the 3 cubs that we saw yesterday afternoon, and couldn't manage to relocate. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, none of the large animals were found this morning. Just, something like the wind could be a determining factor. Also, the blocks out here in the Kalahari is quite thick and quite big as well. So that could be, there could be a case of just the fact that they're lying in a bush somewhere where we can't see them and where we can't track them at the moment. You get those drives where it's just quiet as far as the big stuff is concerned. But I mean, all in all, a beautiful morning so far. The sun is starting to come out now. Bika and I were actually laughing about it earlier. We are hoping for sunlight in the mornings now and hoping for cloud cover in the evenings or the afternoons, because of the mornings being slightly more chilly and the afternoons being actually quite hot. But yeah, no luck on the lions this morning. So we'll have to see when they come back around the mountain, and then we'll be able to get them on screen again. Quite a few dung beetles rolling what seems to be either giraffe or some type of pellet in the road here in front. There you can see them busy working. There's a armored ground cricket or a corn cricket there in front as well. But there you can see the dung beetles operating. They'll start disappearing soon though as well. As soon as the cold mornings becomes more and more prominent, you'll find them going into more of a static phase over winter, almost a hibernation phase or a resting period. Also, the larger beetles might die off, and then it's only the larva that's under the ground, or the eggs that's still under the ground that hasn't hatched yet, that remains for the next season. But they are hard at work. I'm very happy I don't have their job. But absolutely important, guys. I mean, you can imagine how many flies and everything there's going to be lying around if there wasn't any dung beetles to work all of the pellets and the dung balls and scat and all of those things into the ground and make it part of the earth again. That would just be horrible. It seems like those two are having a race. The sun is heating up now quite nicely. The wind hasn't died down just yet, but typically the wind that comes in from the north brings in either moisture or heat for us from like Botswana or so. So we're never complaining about a wind that blows from the north. Even the northeast is also even almost better. I see they are predicting rain for us over the weekend, so the weekend that comes now, so around the 20th and so on. So if this wind continues, it might come through a little earlier. So yeah, because I think we're going to let these dung beetles do their thing. We're going to move on so long.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm here in Northern California.
This is an Anna's hummingbird. We love seeing him because he brings a little magic and energy to our cold, wintry backyard.
In the winter, they politely visit one at a time, but in the summer, they gorge themselves in groups to prepare for their long migration south. As the hummingbirds fly south, over 1 million of these Canadian geese travel the Pacific Flyway from the Arctic to spend the winter with us. They like wetlands and we're in a drought, but they seem pretty happy on the dry bank of Folsom Lake here. This has been a tough year everywhere, but one good thing was we found WildEarth, who encouraged us to relieve our stress through nature. There's a saying that
a distraction is momentary, an escape helps you heal.
Well, one track here in front of me, and then one track went right there. I want to follow the track with the cubs. Sorry, I'm gone behind the car. That's very rude of me. I want to follow the track with the cubs. Oh, my word. Oh, my word. Okay, so everybody, we've just bumped into Pride of Lion.
I'm Nikki here at andBeyond Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the live safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
For the last remainder of drive, I thought I'll just give you a view. And I hope that it relaxes you for your day ahead or your night ahead as much as it relaxes me. Inhale, exhale. The beauty of nature. And that's what we do here, connect people with nature. I hope you all enjoy that. Unless you have nephophobia. Unless you have the fear of clouds, then you may not enjoy that. I haven't actually met anyone that has nephophobia, but it's a thing. It's a real phobia where people are scared of clouds. Amazing, huh? And I believe Mo was talking about Mohawk is still very much alive and well. The 3 avokas are alive and well. And what a drive. At least we briefly got to see Klangula. Sadly, it wasn't quarantine. But one day, I'm very happy I got to see some spots. But sadly, I went into Bufosuk and off-roading is still a little bit tricky. The environment is still very much waterlogged. But I hope you enjoyed your bumbling across all our different locations. Thank you very much for jumping on board, and we shall see you this afternoon. Goodbye for now.